Was SPL. Richard Roderick was assistant SPL. Jim McKee was scribe, ASPL. Any of those names mean anything?
Not McKee, the other two do.
Robert Bearer was in the Cherokee Patrol. Bobby, do you remember the 52-mile hike?
Of course I remember it.
Do you remember being in the Cherokee Patrol?
Now that you tell me, yeah.
Do you remember Bobby Logue or David Lewis or Billy Remmert or
Yeah.
Richard Dollinger?
Sure. 3 of them.
And it looks like maybe, do we suppose the number 2 means he was second class?
Could be.
Because I've got a T for
Tenderfoot.
Tenderfoot beside one of them.
Tenderfoot, second class, that would make sense.
And then there's another patrol that has an I, but that might be a 1.
Could be first class.
But it says I. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, first
Yeah.
class.
Well, I guess let me.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. I want to do
This
some
is exciting
introductions
stuff.
here. So, as you guys, we've been preparing for coming up here in about 4 years for the 100th anniversary. So we have some guest speakers tonight. They're actually here for the earlier, it was about 1962. That was the earlier years, right?
Yeah.
And then he left and came back around 19.
Daddy, he was here in 47 to 52,
Yeah.
and then he left.
And came back in 60.
And then he came back in 659
Yeah.
and has been here since 1959.
Okay. So, let me just start at the far right and kind of do some introductions. So this is Annabeth Robin. She's on the district committee and the council executive board and several other hats. And next to her is her father, Lou Bear. And he was involved in the troop, as she said, for a number of years. Next to him is Roland Harrison. And this is a family of tradition for Troop 5.
Yes.
So he was involved in Troop 5. His son, Roland Harrison Jr., was involved in
Yeah.
Troop 5. And I grew up with Roland Harrison III,
Whoa.
who lives in Tulsa.
Cool.
So, and hopefully has a young one involved in scouting later.
Yeah, he's only a year old.
Yeah, pretty young. And then
Got a few years to wait.
next to him is Annabeth's brother, and Bob? Bob,
Yeah.
okay.
Robert.
Bob, and you live in Tulsa.
I live in Tulsa.
In Tulsa. So, I just want to, guys, be respectful tonight. If you ask questions, be loud, enunciate your words, and speak slow. Okay? So sometimes digging into those files takes a little time to pull up some memory there. So, be thinking of questions.
That's for sure.
Put yourself in the time frame and think what might have been different. What was scouting like then? So I know you'll probably think of some questions later, but please be respectful, raise your hand, and I guess Annabeth will call on you.
I can repeat if need
And
be.
can help with that. So, welcome to Troop 5, gentlemen. Back to
Thank
Troop
you.
5, I should say.
Okay, so Daddy, what do you remember? I don't know, Roland, did you go on the 52-mile hike?
No,
Daddy, what do you remember about the 52-mile hike?
Well, I heard there was going to be a discussion on that 50-mile hike, so I thought I'd come down and learn something. Memories grow faint. I'll tell you what I remember,
Yeah.
and I will be happy if you ask questions. First off, can you hear what I'm saying?
Doing good.
Had I had these papers, I would have had a well-prepared talk. Right now, we're going to talk off the top of my head. I don't know how many kids, what the total membership on this hike was. Maybe 30 or so, Bob,
I would think.
I guess.
Good number.
About 5 or 6 men, and the rest were scouts.
11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 scouts.
Oh,
Assuming that this is correct, I would assume it is. I'm sorry, I forgot about the leadership. Sorry, I didn't count the SPL and the ASPL. So
Right.
20 scouts.
Okay. And
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. No, because that's the scouts too. 1, 2. I can't tell who's the adult and who's the youth, so I don't know about how many adults. That's the,
No,
this
no,
is the
30
list of
total.
scouts, and that's the 10 assignments, but I can't tell who's for sure, who's an adult and who's a
Yeah.
youth.
Well,
Where did you go on this
Well-
52-mile hike?
I wanna get some extra points. The troops did then meet on Mondays, and maybe we still continue to meet on Mondays.
We do.
So it seems like old times.
Did you meet here?
Well, no, our meeting place was in this building, but in what might have been the basement, a room which at one time had a dirt floor, and eventually it was concreted.
This is pre the 52-mile hike. This is earlier on.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so that's not really the numbers or the people that were on the hike. Those are,
Just a roster of the troops.
yeah, for example, Bobby Logue was gone by that time, I think.
Is,
By the time of the 52-mile hike.
Okay.
is that downstairs room still called the scout room?
Yeah,
Okay,
but it's
there.
not, it's a concrete floor though, isn't it?
now, yeah,
Yeah,
eventually
Yeah,
concreted it.
floor, mhm.
yeah.
That was a convenient meeting room for us because it was accessible without hindrance of other activities in the building. But it was next to what then was a well-equipped library, a parish library
Yeah.
with rack and rack and rack of books. And for reasons which I don't know, that was demolished.
Oh,
And all those books have been someplace. I don't know where. I hope they were saved because always thought there were some valuable books in there on the history of the Catholic Church.
Could I add, Father, no.
Yes.
Lynch, Father Lynch at the time used to
Yeah.
give sermons on Sunday, and he really liked that library down there because his sermons were very short and to the point of everything. Then he would just say, if you want to know more about this, you could go downstairs and read it in the Catholic Encyclopedia.
Yep, yep.
Go ahead, sorry.
That's all right, thanks. I didn't know that, but that was Father Lynch, right?
Yes,
Father Lynch.
He was the longest pastor we've had here.
And his homilies were very short, maybe 7 or 8 or 10 minutes, I don't know.
I don't know.
But that room then became a convenient room along with the scout room for the scouts and the young leaders, for the men holding committee meetings because we arranged to meet at the same time so that the dads on the committee were brought down here with their scouts' sons and the two combined. We didn't participate in the scout meetings, they didn't participate in the committee meetings, but it certainly was a convenient affair. Well, when I got wind that I was not then, that I remember, was not then really active in the scout troop, being a relative newcomer to the parish, but when Bob was a member, but when I got wind that there was this 50-mile hike in the offing, I asked somebody in the group if I could go along. And they said, sure. They were looking for leaders anyway. And that's how I joined up with the crowd. We assembled here, I don't remember dates.
June 10th,
What day of the week would that have been? Does it say?
Sunday, June 10th.
That's what I
It's
thought.
lucky that you all kept the memo to parents,
Yeah.
because it says you left Bartlesville Sunday, June 10th, after the 6:30 mass.
oh, I didn't
So do we assume that's 6:30 a.m.?
A.M.
Probably,
imagine.
yeah.
Yeah. So,
because we didn't have vigil masses in those days. We didn't have Sunday evening mass.
Or Saturday evening?
That's what I meant.
Saturday
Yeah.
evening, yeah.
sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, no, we didn't have it yet. That hadn't come in.
The idea was that the dads in their cars would drive the assembly down to Camp Gruber,
Yep.
where we started in southeast Oklahoma. That was
Yes.
at the start of the Comanche Trail, I guess.
This says you were gonna go from Camp Glover to Camp Pioneer in Arkansas, and it
Yeah.
was in place of your week-long summer camp.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So it was 5 days and 4 nights.
So, somebody on the committee had prepared this list of belongings, which all of us had to take with us, most of which we had to take with us. That was to last us for a week out in the wilderness. And we looked forward to this trip because it sounded like boyhood, or in my case, boyhood dreams up in Lake Superior. I've never been to Lake Superior in Michigan, but there were stories of adventures by two guys, teenagers, I guess, on Lake Superior, and that was the vision I had of this prepared trip. Now, the two are quite different. Michigan is totally different
From Arkansas?
because among my memories, I remember the heat, because I don't know if that anything gives us temperature recordings, but it was extremely hot, and along with the time of the year, humid. We didn't have any rain that I remember on the trip, but boy was it humid, heavy, and we perspired heavily because we set up camp at each of our stops. There were 6 stops, I think, or 5 stops.
5.
5,
It looks like you did about 10 miles a day.
yeah.
Well, there was one day when you did 12 and a half.
Oh boy. Well, I remember the
That's
heat.
on the map.
Yes,
12 and a half on the map.
true, 12 and a half
But
on the
in
map.
reality, going up the hills and down, it was really about 18 maybe.
That's true.
right. We went up and down.
Good elevation.
Yeah, it increases the length of the number of steps.
The other thing that nature provided was vast hordes of mosquitoes. And I guess we were bitten, but no after effects that I'm aware of. And I'm not aware that I ever carried any bites home with me that itched. I just don't remember that part. But boy, it was human. And there was nothing to relieve it because we had no ice that I remember. I don't know how we kept our food, such as it was that had to be refrigerated, how we kept it cold. But nobody, well, later on I'll tell you something about getting sick. Nobody that I knew of got sick. But that was a tendency to be a fairly dangerous trip because I don't think any of the leadership that had been on this trail, and they were taking a bunch of amateur hikers, even though some of them were Eagle Scouts, into an unknown without real knowledge of what we would do if somebody really had a bad fall, broke their back, broke a leg, or got severely ill. That those were things we didn't think about. At least I didn't think about them.
Well, that's too bad, Daddy, because according to this, who was responsible for what, you were the quartermaster.
No, I was. I was the quartermaster.
Right, but he was the, where, I don't know where I saw that. He was the adult leader in charge of equipment. I'm sorry, physical arrangements.
64. When was the year?
62.
62.
62. Troop equipment other than cooking. And the truck, you were in charge of the truck.
I don't remember, but go ahead.
And physical, I'm just reading, physical arrangements.
Yeah, there was a truck that brought food around, met us at each campsite. We
Ah,
didn't carry everything.
so that's how you did food then?
We carried what we needed during the day.
Oh,
We
okay.
also had backpacks.
Yeah? Mm-hmm.
That's on the list of things you're supposed to take, was a backpack.
But we didn't have to carry our bedrolls because they could
Oh.
come, the tents and things could come with the truck. So we didn't have to
That's
carry
right.
heavy things we didn't have to carry.
Okay.
Ah.
That I remember.
How much does summer camp cost?